Yes, buckle your seatbelt.
Hello all, welcome to another Roundtable Reviews. Today we are going to be reviewing TNG, Where No One Has Gone Before, which sounds eerily familiar to one that we've done already, but that was in TOS. This is TNG. As always, we have Captain Trek and Vance Major. How are we doing today, this evening, gentlemen?
Doing great.
All right, so as usual, we'll go around the table and get the initial thoughts on the episode. And for just out of something new, we'll start with Cap.
Well, it certainly is an interesting episode. Oh my. I would rather not go into much more.
That's fine. We'll stick with this. An interesting episode. Initial thoughts. All right, Vance, you're up.
I loved it. You had Kaczynski there, who I think is probably the star of Star Trek in general. You had the Traveler creeping on Wesley Crusher, and then you had Captain Trek's greatest moment, which is Wesley Crusher's promotion. So, I mean, what's not to like? So, you know.
Vance, I have to ask, were you a troll in a previous life?
What are you talking about? What are you saying?
All right, with that said, my initial reaction is I'll agree with Cap. It was an interesting episode. However, I will disagree with Vance. That engineer dude needed to be shot out an airlock. And then, of course, yes, we get the promotion of Wesley Crusher. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So, the episode is basically the Enterprise has been ordered by Starfleet Command to undergo we'll say an overhaul to their engines. This guy has a formula that's going to make them run more efficiently, get better speed, etc. What were your initial thoughts of the engineer in question and his companion, Cap?
Well, first of all, the engineer came across as a know-it-all jerk who was just basically an asshole. And the Traveler was kind of an unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite sure what to make of him at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, Vance.
Well, Kaczynski came on, and he was well-informed, he was patient, and everyone was just kind of being a jerk to him. I didn't like that. And the Traveler...
the same show.
Well, the Traveler felt like he needed to be on to catch a predator. So, you know, I'm wondering if we watch the same show. I don't know. So, I mean, you know, there's that.
Well, the engineer guy should have been thrown out an airlock about 5 minutes in.
Kaczynski! Come on!
Kaczynski.
He almost
you put Kaczynski in Scotty's engineering room, and that guy's going out an airlock.
The face of Star Trek is right there. He almost had an entire scale named after him. Come on, Kaczynski. Come on. You're killing me, people.
Kaczynski needed to go out an airlock. He was
haters
pretentious prick.
Haters gonna hate. He had great hair too, by the way. That slicked back, and his suave walk. I mean, he was like a 24th century Tom Selleck. He just needed the mustache.
And personality, the car. He needed a lot. He needed a lot.
Now I'm wondering if we did watch the different episode. I don't know.
Oy. As for the Traveler, at the very beginning, he comes across as kind of reserved and very mysterious, because even the great Diana Troy can't read him.
Well, that's like, I like how they make this. She's like, it's like he's not even there. Like I like how that's like one of the first times of her like showing how useless she is.
Yeah,
Whereas,
basically. He's a self-righteous prick. We know this. Next. I've talked to the gentleman. He's a self-righteous prick. We know this. All right.
It's like nothing she says this entire episode really matters. You know?
No. No.
You know, she was about as useful as that fat engineer that was working with Kaczynski, and you know.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I still have a hard time getting used to the chief engineer not being Geordi.
Yeah.
Well, I don't mind it not being Geordi. What I mind it is they have like a rotating staff of chief engineers. Like they have in The Naked Now, they have Chief Engineer McDougal, and then they have this one, and then in the next one they have a different dude, who gets killed. So and then in Data Lore they go back to this fat one. So I mean, you know, and I like this guy, you know, because at least you know you have he at least had two spots, so he's the most consistent. But like, why would you have two chief engineers? Why do you keep calling them chief engineers? Now, granted, this ship is supposed to be larger than anything in Starfleet, but you've gone through 3 chief engineers.
Well, because Picard's a picky bastard.
Yeah,
especially first season.
Oh yes.
Especially first season. Picard is a picky bastard.
I wish they just would have picked an engineer and been like, all right, let's stick with this and go. Especially considering the fact that you've got 2 junior officers, you know, a guy who sits at the helm and then a guy who just stands there in the back. Like, pick a damn engineer. Especially considering in the original series you had Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's not above the whole thing of why don't we have a chief engineer? Now, I don't like Geordi in engineering. I like him at the helm. I think it's more interesting to have a blind navigator. I think that's more interesting than he's our chief engineer. Now, you know, we get him more in engineering than anything else, and we're used to that, and that's fine. But you went an entire season without really showing the chief engineer, except for, you know, random whoever decided to show up that week.
Yeah. Well, and actually, since we're doing that series as well, I would say that TOS had the same issue. The only difference was it was the revolving door for the Doctor until Bones finally took over.
Well, but that was only for a couple of episodes, so I can kind of forgive that, you know. And plus, they were kind of finding their foot, and it was a different, you know, it was just for me that's kind of a different type of setting. I can kind of forgive that, you know. It'd be different for this if they had a, you know, different chief engineer for, you know, maybe an episode or 2. But it's like they keep that revolving door going, you know. So it's like
it's a lot more prolonged in TNG than it was in TOS.
You know, it's yeah.
But then again, I mean, by the end of season 1, beginning of season 2, a lot of positions change. Yeah, that's chief engineer, chief of security. Yeah, it was just it was almost a lot of change between season 1 season 2.
It was almost a soft reboot because you had Riker with the beard. Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of subtle changes. You know, they definitely allowed growth. But speaking of growth, you know, Captain Trek's boys Wesley promotion. You know, we got to go where no one went before. This was a really great episode. You know, I mean, what did you think of the episode as a whole? You know, sarcasm aside, like, I thought it really brought up a bunch of, you know, interesting things. You know, they went to a different galaxy. I like how each one of the crew members were, you know, they had a different take. Like Data, he was like, no, we should study this stuff. Geordi's like, should we, you know, what hope do we really have? And Worf's like, can we allow this dude to be in a position to make a mistake where he already made one? You know, like they each had a different take on this one dude. You know, I really appreciated that premise. And like you brought up when we were watching it, like this is kind of the inspiration for Voyager. Yeah. And I really dug that because it's like just that one visual of a different type of galaxy with the Enterprise D in front of it, it's like, wow, that's strikingly different. And then when they go off to further, where, Picard's mom's like, is this the beginning of the universe or the end or whatever? Like that was just like, whoa, what is this? I really dug those themes.
Overall, I would say the episode is good. The Wesley Crusher stuff excluded. Well, and I've never been a Wesley Crusher fan ever.
Well, in all seriousness, for the Wesley stuff, as a kid, I liked it. Watching it now, it's I understand why they did it. I think it was a little bit too
contrived,
hammy.
Yeah.
It's because it's like, first off, like it didn't feel organic. Because first off, the Traveler was creeping on the dude the whole time.
Yeah.
And
they
then he says,
"Hold hands" moment.
Right. But then it's like you sit there and say, "Don't tell the mom," which again that feels it's like, whoa, what?
What?
Yeah. And then at the end, you're like, well, we're going to promote him to acting ensign.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's like, what I would have done is say, hey, maybe we'll have you visit the bridge more often, and let's train you to do some of this stuff. Instead of let's promote him to acting ensign, because you're already letting him chill in engineering, which to me, I was like, that doesn't feel right. He shouldn't have access to that, even if it's for a quote unquote school project. Engineering should be one of the heavily guarded places on a starship. Why is this kid there? So
never mind there. Why is he screwing with machinery?
Yeah. So to me, it's like, as much as I like it for a character perspective, and I know why they did that, to me, it's like from a reality perspective, it's like, no, this doesn't fit. So when you turn your brain off to think about it, it's like, it's not, it's not quite what it should be. If it had gone over the course of a couple of episodes, like, hey, let's train him, Riker. Let's get him some training on this stuff and gradually do that, and then maybe send him off to the academy. To me, it's like if they had done it, as we know, the episode Coming of Age, in a couple of episodes when he goes to the academy, if he had failed that and then they said, hey, since you failed the academy test, let's promote him to acting ensign. Let's give him that breadcrumb. Let's continue his growth. To me, that would have felt more organic over the course of the first season instead of, hey, let's jump him up there, guys. Because there are people in Starfleet who go their entire careers who never get to be a bridge officer. And here you are just giving this kid, access to all
keys
this
to
stuff.
The flagship.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, as a kid, I was like, man, this is awesome. As an adult, I'm looking at it going, what? And
Parent
again,
favoritism at its finest.
Yeah. And again, you guys know I love the character, but if I'm being serious,
you're setting him up, because think about it. When he does eventually go, like if we're bringing this into real world, right?
Right.
So we bring this into real world situation. Now you're going to send him off to Starfleet Academy. He is officially target number one for all those kids that work their asses off to get that position where they are. And he's going to be looked at as, oh, look, it's the dude with the silver spoon in his mouth.
Pretty much, yeah.
He got handed everything.
Or the ugly silver uniform that he wears in the second season.
Yeah, well, there's that too. But I mean, you're setting him up for his peers not to like him ever. Because so what was your first acting role on a starship? Oh, I was I helped navigate a garbage scow. Oh, what was your first ever experience with a starship? Oh, the Enterprise D, the flagship of the Federation. Say what?
I got to fly it every week. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, if they had done it over the course, like I said, I would have waited, and then at the episode Coming of Age where he goes to the academy entrance exam and have him fail that, and then be like, hey, there's no there's humility in failing, and then give him the acting ensign. To me, it's like that would have felt earned, because here I feel like he did earn a spot to be trained, but not necessarily an acting ensign role. To me, it's
Yeah.
like that was just too much. And I
And
feel
I
like
mean,
that's,
the only reason he got the acting ensign was because Picard had made the ruling that only, Starfleet personnel were allowed on the bridge.
right.
So the way Picard gets around this is, okay, well, I'm just going to make him an ensign. And now I'm not breaking my own rule, which is kind of stupid because most captains of any show, doesn't matter what series, they break the rules constantly. That's kind of the joys of being captain.
Right.
You kind of get to make it up as you go along. Nobody else can break your rules, but you sure as hell can, and you do it regularly.
And there are many times in the series that ambassadors come on, or representatives of another planet. They're not officers. Why are they having bridge access?
Yeah. But it just, to me, this was the start. Like, for me, really, this one and one other one before this, and I can't remember off the top of my head because it's too late. But
Well,
really started my loathing for Wesley.
Well, and that's like I was just about to say, this gives the perfect reason for why people would hate your character.
Oh, now I remember. I don't remember the name of it, but it was when Wesley Crusher, they're in the middle of the battle zone, and Wesley Crusher gets to freaking man a freaking station through the whole freaking show. Meanwhile, they're at battle stations, and this non-Starfleet kid is at the freaking bridge controls. That was the start of me not liking Wesley, and then this one just affirmed it. Oh, so now he gets the acting ensign for no reason.
Complete credibility to why people started to hate this character, because it's just not believable. And like I said earlier, it's like people who've worked their entire careers that never get what this kid's gotten.
Yeah.
And as much as I enjoyed it as a kid, looking at it from an adult, I still don't have a problem with it, because I'm like, I enjoy the character, but I certainly get why people are like, man, fuck this dude.
Yeah, it's like, when you're you're in a company or something, and you've been working there for 7 years or 3 years or whatever the case may be. You've been there a while. And the boss's son turns 16.
Yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden, he's your supervisor. What the fuck? Right? And this is exactly the same emotion that I got when I watched this, because it's like, no. So yeah, it was the start of my loathing of Wesley Crusher.
Yeah, and it just does the whole thing just a disservice. Yeah.
So Cap, overall, what did you think of the episode? I mean, there was a little bit of philosophy in there, a little bit of thought. My main thing, and I think Cap will probably agree with me on this one, is any segment where you had the Traveler and Picard in it was really good. Riker kind of showing his, no, this is, I don't like this, Cap. I don't like this at all. This doesn't add up. Something's off. I don't like this. Him showing that concern that he will have later on in the series. It's always Riker that's going, nah, this don't smell right. And Picard going, are you sure? Yeah. Okay. Well, then you go investigate it. That's kind of a trope later on in the seasons.
Don't forget the backside, would you?
But for me, any part of it that didn't involve Wesley or that idiot was relatively entertaining.
Yes.
Anything that involved Wesley or the other one just made me go grr. What do you think, Cap?
Yeah, I agree. Kaczynski was annoying, and would have been better without him.
Yeah. Or at least tone him down a little bit. Bring him down a couple pegs.
Well, they really needed to they really needed to make him the the most ridiculous character, just to make the other one more.
Well, even like, okay, I could have bought. What would have redeemed him for me would have been when it comes out that he ain't doing any of this, right? He's just been kind of the patsy. He's been the front guy, and it's been the guy behind the curtain that's been doing it all. If his emotional state would have crumbled, where we would have got that moment where it's my life's work and it's meaningless.
Yeah, I'm a fraud. Right.
Right? To have that moment would have made this a totally different outlook on that character. But he never got there.
No.
No, not really. All you get is the angry,
Yeah.
I did do it, right.
Like, F him, right? At that point, it's like, okay, I have no interest in you. Go next.
Flip side, though, you kind of get that when the Traveler asks him, he's like, hey, you want to help me on controls? And he kind of has that kind of the smile in the Mentos commercial moment.
Yeah.
With
Oh, you
Traveler.
need me?
Yeah.
But when he's first finding out that he's basically the front guy and this guy's doing everything behind the curtain, his thing is, oh no, let's nail this guy to a cross. We got to do this for we have a chance to do. It's like, no, dude, you need to stand down. You need to have a humble moment, and then we can bring you back up. But you need that humble moment. Without that humble moment, your arc sucks.
Well, they were too busy trying to rush to get Wesley's character, promoted. That's all that was. That's why I say that's why I say it just wasn't. It just didn't work for me, because it's like they rushed too much, and you see a lot of that in those early episodes. Is they rushed a lot for story,
for story purposes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go around the table, give us our final thoughts on this one, and then we'll wrap this sucker up. So, Captain Trek, last final thoughts and grade, please.
Final thoughts. It was a decent episode. I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay. Vance?
I still have to say, for the first season, I'd have to say it's probably... I'd say probably an 8.
Okay.
So this wouldn't hold up if this was like third season. I'd be like, no, this is probably about a 2 or 3, because it's entertaining. Visually, it's good, but story wise, it's like, oh, this is not good. But for a first season episode, I'd say no, it holds up pretty well. So
yeah. And for me, I'm going to go with Cap. It's about a 6. Yeah, I mean, it's not a meh, but it's not anything to write home to mom about either. And my main gripe with it is the force feeding of Wesley Crusher.
Yeah.
And setting him up to be the fans' loathing point for the next 7 seasons. For those reasons and a few others, I'd stick at a solid 6. So I hope everyone's enjoyed. And I hope everybody likes these style of review where we're not breaking it down scene by scene, move by move. There's a lot of channels that do that. I like to just watch the show and just have a general discussion. I think those reviews are a little bit more different, and they're not out there as much as the scene by scene by scene by scene by scene by scene. It gets a little tedious to do it scene by scene by scene. So I hope everybody enjoys this style. Please leave me a comment, like, share, subscribe if you're not already. And until next time, take her easy, folks.